Right, hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby. We are live and it is episode number 246, I think. Six. Props, hookers, locks, loose forwards. Yeah, episode number 6. We're doing fly halves today. We are choosing a fan-chosen Rugby World Cup squad. And today is going to be an interesting one because we have to add just two players, but arguably the most important two players to the Springbok squad that we will be taking to France. So far, this is what our squad looks like. We've got a pack. And we've got 3 scrum halves. Today, we need to go and add 2 fly halves to the mix. And very interested to see what the options we vote for are, as well as what who was going to back and who we was going to pick. So yeah, it's going to be quite cool to see what we come up with, and when, because obviously then people watch it back and whether people agree with the decision we make or disagree with the decision. So it should all be quite a lot of fun. Basically how it works, if you are new to this, is that we discuss a couple of options, we throw some names together, and we then put up a poll and we vote on which options we prefer. And based on that, we will then come down to a final decision. And today we're going to be adding squad number 22 and 23 to the mix. And then on Monday, we'll be doing centers. I think we're going to pick about 4 centers, and then outside backs and an additional player. So next week, Wednesday, we will have a full squad of 33. And then on Thursday, we will then be doing a final 23. Like if you were to play in a World Cup final tomorrow, what would our 23 look like? So we are getting there. We are very much getting there. And it's been some interesting decisions. There's been some interesting calls. I think we've got a pretty strong squad happening at the moment. And hopefully today we'll add 2 good additions to it. So the big questions are, into our fly half options. Is Damian Willemse a fly half option, for example? Is ELTON Jantjies an option at all? Is he going to be considered for the World Cup? Does Pollard make it? Pollard is probably quite a straightforward option. Other potential options, Johan Goosen is an outside option that some people are talking about. I don't think he's really done enough since came back from injury to really justify really being in the conversation, to be brutally honest. But some people might disagree with that. Some people might say that he has been pretty good and that he could get an opportunity. So, yeah, it's all about personal preference, isn't it? And that's why we then put it up to a vote, so that we can also come up with the general consensus of who should go. So before we put up our first poll, let's start throwing up some names. Obviously, I think Manu Liebach's going to be involved, and Andre Pollard's going to be involved. ELTON Jantjies has to be involved because he has been the second choice fly half for the last 5 years, 6 years almost. In fact, yeah, he and Pollard have been the 2 fly half options probably about the last 8 years, really. We haven't really had anybody else since Pat Lambie retired. So Manu Liebach got 2 games, two matches off the bench last year. Not too many caps there, so very new to Test match rugby. Is that enough? Johan Goosen, for example, talks about the fact that he was, back in Springbok training camps, for example, lineman camps, but he still wasn't even fit at the time, which I think probably sort of sums him up, really. So, yeah, interesting to see. A couple people are talking about Rob de Preer, and the rugby's playing over for sale. They're actually in the final, in the Premiership final, although he did play it at inside centre. Due to the fact that George Ford is playing in the number 10 over there. So the question is, who is our 4th person we're going to add? So my first poll is going to be Andre Pollard, Manu Liebach, ELTON Jantjies. The question is, who do you want to throw into that equation as well? Who's our 4th fly half? Is it Chris Smith? Is it Johan Goosen? Is it Rob de Preer? Is it is it Curran Bosch? Some people talking about Curran Bosch playing some good rugby. Let me know what some of your options are. But yeah, let's go to the comments. Hello, Angela, hope you're well. Vic saying Liebach over ELTON any day. So you said missed the last live. Amazing to see how many of our weaker spots in terms of depth is now one of the most contested. Would love to see Grant Williams in the mix at 9. Well, he was in the mix. He was edged out by Kobus Reinach, but he did get quite a few views, so he was definitely on the table to potentially make that squad. Just missing out there. And yeah, I agree. And that's not even considering Herschel Jantjies, who's the Rugby World Cup winner. Not had his best couple of years, but personally, I think starting to look a bit like the Herschel Jantjies that went to the World Cup, and we're using the situation where every touch turned to goal. And I do think in the last sort of month, and then potentially, I mean, he could, if he goes and puts in a world class performance next weekend, could help the Stormers win back-to-back URCs. That's got to come for something, doesn't it? for scrum half, he's not playing particularly well. To go and get back-to-back trophies is pretty impressive. So yeah, I do think that scrum half wise, we're looking pretty good. Fly half wise, I think we've got a lot of young options. Very young options. I'm very keen to see what Sia Masuka is going to do at the Sharks next season. You really want to see how Sasha Feinberg Gomazuli comes through, how Kate Voliter comes through, for example. Obviously, Jordan Hendrickson needs to get back from injury, and then it's be very interesting to see how he's going to go there. There's quite a lot of young fly halves coming up. A very different type of fly half. I think if we go back 10 years, we wanted fly halves who were pretty physical, who had very good kicky games, but we didn't really necessarily need them to have a lot of flair or really good distribution game in terms of sort of those like a Finn Russell sort of style play. We generally favoured your sort of Mornay Stain. Andre Pollard is quite different to Mornay Stain, but sort of very solid in certain areas. But I wouldn't say a lot of X factor. I wouldn't say like this sort of very high risk, high reward type of players. Sort of mercurial type of fly halves. But the fly halves coming up through now are far more creative, far more innovative. Like to try and put players in space. Like to really sort of vary their attack, and so we see more fly halves come up in the molds of like your Molly box. Your ELTON Jantjies. They like their cross kicks. They like their offloads. They like putting players on the front line, not necessarily just sort of controlling it. Marshalling a game maybe is a good word. Maybe necessarily we're not sort of bringing back the marshals. Although any good fly half will marshal game, will be the general inverted commas. They just do it very differently. Sometimes some of them will marshal the game in terms of directing where we're going to hit up the forwards, where we're going to sort of hit up our centres, and then where we're going to sort of try tactically sort of outsmart the opposition. Now we're seeing fly halves who control the game by controlling where the game is being played. A cross kick in behind, a little chip over the top, for example, adding a bit of variation to try and create different spaces or pockets of space really to try and exploit. And there's no sort of real right or wrong answer. Lots of people sit there saying Andre Pollard isn't, a flavy 10, but he's won a World Cup. You can't really argue that, can you? So same as Butch James. I think if you look at all our World Cup winning fly halves, they've never been those sort of X factor attacking natured fly halves. They're defensively very solid and pretty good with the boot. So it's going to be interesting to see how we sort of evolve and how we might have to be forced to adapt to the new sort of generation coming through. Albert says, Lerock over Yankees, Lerock got his mind right. Albert saying, if it's up to the coaches, it'll be Hurston. Then throwing it to how's it? Where's Amin and why is Sia at 13? Because this is a squad, not a 23, which is why, for example, Dwayne Firmino will not be playing at full pack. Peter Steph-Toy and Frederick Moss will not be our wings. Lua Diago will definitely not be playing at flower half. This is purely a squad, not a final 23. So yeah, the question is, who is our fourth one that we want to throw into? Who do we want to add to it? So we've got one shout for Rob Dupree. Do you want to throw in a Jan Hurton? Do you want to throw in a Chris Smith, for example? Where are we at? Who is the first flower half into the squad? I'm going to put in Money Libok, Andre Pollard. I'm going to throw in ELTON Jantjies. And we're going to throw in Rob Dupree. Right, go and get voting. To answer your question, ELTON Jantjies has been playing a lot of rugby this year. And he's been playing in the Brody 2. He signed that short-term deal to try and get back on the field. And I think he's played about 700 or 800 minutes so far. They actually made the playoffs. They lost, Adrian. But he has been playing. And by all accounts, I've heard he's been playing pretty well as well, which is pretty good to see. Even if you don't like him, for example, we need as many options as possible because, it's all very well saying, cool, we'll go with Pollard and Money Libok. One of them gets injured, we need ELTON Jantjies to come in. It's not really a conversation we can ignore. So yeah, he's played 636 minutes in the Pro D2 this season, which is cool to see. Just for 600 minutes, he's had an 81% tackle success rate, for example. He's kicked at 86%. He scored 65 points across the 11 games he's played, so averaging about 6 points a game. He's averaging 13 minutes a tackle, 13 minutes a carry, 106 he's beaten 12 defenders, got 2 try assists, a clean break. 40 penalty goals conversion, 1 drop goal. So yeah, from what I've heard, he has been playing pretty well, and that's good. At the end of the day, regardless of whether everyone's got a preference, for example, but we've got to have depth, don't we? It's easy having this squad on paper that we really love, but injuries are a real thing, and so we do need to have as many options available, and especially options of people who can come into the squad and fit in quite quickly. Obviously, Pollard and Jantjies are playing top class rugby at the moment. De is not far behind them. I was saying not Chris Smith for World Cup, must be Pollard. Christian saying, glad to eventually catch you live. Missed all the other lives. This will probably be the most easy selection with 2 flowers. Yeah, we'll turn your notification on and you'll get a little notification if the live comes. Although some people have said they haven't been getting notifications, so please let me know if you do get live notifications when we do go live, because we are trying to chat to YouTube about it and saying that we're getting a lot of feedback from people saying that they're not getting those notifications, which is very frustrating. So yeah, any feedback would be great, because when we tell them that it's not working, they sort of say, well, it's all working from our side, and we're saying, I'm glad it's working from your side, but our followers just aren't getting notifications. But yeah, Vic's saying, I would suggest to play with Liebach starting during the June test and give him experience. Well, that's the next sort of question, isn't it? Is the fact that if you're now going to add Liebach to the squad, okay, he's only played, 40 minutes of test match rugby, I think. That might even be a bit generous. 58 minutes, I'll take it all back. He's played 58 minutes of test match rugby, so he's not even played a full 80. So, it's a difficult one, because you don't want to take a flower half to the World Cup who's played 60 minutes of international rugby. You want him to have played a couple of games. So you do probably need to give him some game time in the 6 build-up games. Same time, Andre Pollard missed a lot of last season through injury. We need to get him up to standard in the Springbok jersey. Now, yes, he is a player that we don't need to worry about too much. He's been there, he's done that. He's literally won a World Cup. So literally got there, been there, got the T-shirt and the medal. But yeah, we've got 6 matches, and we probably need to give them about 3 each. Because I think, Liebach, if he's going to be an option, if he's going to be the second choice, needs to play and needs to understand the systems. And if Damien Willemse, for example, is a genuine option, and like he was at the end of your tour last year, was actually preferred ahead of Liebach, then he also needs to play a bit there. So it's difficult to see how we're going to spread the minutes to make sure that everyone is in form and everyone is playing their best rugby. Buta saying, I'll get notifications. Christian saying, didn't get any notifications last week, but got today. So I suppose that's a nice thing. You might need to sort your side because the video comes through laggy for me and i5G. Well, let me know if anybody else has got an issue with lag or anything with the stream. As I said, from our side, we're broadcasting strongly at 5,000 kilobits per second, which is more than what you need for a smooth HD stream. So shouldn't be. So if anybody else having those issues, then let us know. And again, we can try and engage YouTube and try and find out what's going on. Jean says, off top, but I always thought Arno Boert and Marcel Coetzee should have been 50-plus cap players, especially with their current form. Yeah, look, probably, injuries have never helped them, especially Marcel Coetzee, who often got injured at sort of the worst times, playing really good rugby, becoming really important for the Springboks, bang, injured. It's amazing how so many careers that should have been. And those are always the worst type, aren't they? It also doesn't help that they're playing in positions where we have had such little depth. So, for example, if Arceus Neyman was a flank, we probably wouldn't be worrying about him right now. We probably wouldn't even be talking about the fact he's going to go to the World Cup, to be perfectly honest. Like, yes, he's a very special player, but I'm just saying that's a position, those are positions where there is so much depth. Whereas I think at lock, we've got some decent locks, but nothing in this sort of the same caliber. I think our 4 top locks of even Etzbeth, Loa Diago, Franklin Mostert, if he's considered a lock, and Arceus Neyman are very much in a league of their own. And then there's a bit of a step down to your Marvin Orr. He's a very solid player, not necessarily got the same sort of X factor. Your Salman Murats, for example. I think, your Ruben van Heerdens, for example, I think we'll definitely get that. I've been very impressed with run for Mark, we're not here. Jake White wants to move to bulk a bit, which I don't think is probably the worst thing for him. But you don't want to lose that work rate and that mobility around the park as well. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. But yeah, Peter May say, well, this will be a backup to Pollard. Well, we have to see in the test only. I think it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. in the June series or in the Rugby Championship, whether they decide that they want to go with Pollard all 3 matches, try and win the Rugby Championship, for example. They always say that they pick the best available side, but there's also has to be a certain amount of rotation to ensure that everyone's in their best possible frame of playing and the squad's ready to go and win a World Cup. Let's be honest, that's the only thing we care about. South Africans, we probably wouldn't be mind coming last in the Rugby Championship if we go and win the World Cup. That's we've always looked at that as our sort of our big one. And why not, really? It is the biggest showpiece. I think our biggest frustration has probably been our lack of performances outside World Cup years, although we have won the last 2 British National Lions series. But we probably want to win more Rugby Championships in between World Cup years, And that's probably our sort of our next step as a rugby nation, to become more consistent and winning trophies consistently, as opposed to, select World Cups and series and sort of every now and again type thing. Maybe saying, I can stay to 10 straight away. How many matches will be played per team in the Rugby Championship? So it'll be 3 matches. Everyone's going to play each other once. We do play Argentina twice this year, but one will be as a friendly, and then we play England and New Zealand as well in pre-World Cup matches. No, not England, Wales. We've got Wales in Cardiff, and we've got New Zealand and Twickenham in August. So Albert says, honest to keep ELTON out of the squad, I'd gladly settle for Liebach. Jean says, I think Boerten and Coetzee should be squeezed to milk their value when they're experienced, because experienced players don't last as long as youthful players. Josh said, I'll keep Williams at fullback. Albert saying, Williams will only play 10 if we have more than one injury at 10. Really can also be back up 10 off the bench in emergencies. He hasn't played there a bit in the Japanese league. Obviously, the Rugby Championship doesn't really matter in the World Cup. Yeah, who will start at 15? It's a very good question, isn't it? Next week, Thursday, we can decide who wants to start at 13, because once we've got our full squad, we're then going to do a stream where we'll decide who will be our top 23 and who will start the combinations and stuff like that. So now these are the building blocks. And then next week, Thursday, we're going to build a house, a World Cup winning house as well. So I'm going to close the poll there. Probably could have closed it a while, to be fair, because Andre Pollard is going to be the first name onto the list. Shock and horror. Good to see him playing some of his best rugby, and he's got through the season unscathed, despite not playing last weekend. So hopefully he'll be able to get down here and start training with the boss quite quickly. And we're then going to add in a second poll, who is the other fly half in the squad. We're going to throw in Mani Liebach. We're going to throw in Rob de Preer. We're going to throw in ELTON Jantjies. And who else we throw in? Should we throw in Jan Koersen just because he was on the radar? That probably makes the most sense to me. So we'll throw those ones in. Let's see if we can get up to 35 sort of votes on that one. And we'll add our second flower half to the equation. France injury update. I haven't heard anything from the Cheetahs. Still not playing at the moment. I personally think that could potentially rule him out of the World Cup. He's just not played a lot of rugby. I mean, let's go see how much rugby he actually has played. I mean, obviously he's only really sort of had France Spain. Wow. Ultimate Rugby have listed him as a loose head prop. That's so hectic. I mean, to be fair, you look at 36 years old, 112 kgs, 191 centimeters, but the man could probably do a job at prop. Just because he's so talented, he could probably do a job most places. That is a bit hectic to list him as a loose head prop, though. His last match was the 9th of January. This must be a different profile, to be fair. Because this is the inside profile. It's the same weight, but imagine it. You can't believe they've got 2 profiles. One is a loose head prop and one is an inside center. It's pretty wild. Yeah, so the last time he played was 24th of March. Hasn't played since then. He played 80 minutes, then played 80 minutes against the Griffins. So let's see how many minutes he's played this season so far. So according to Ultimate Rugby, he's played 347 minutes in the 2023 season. He played 50 minutes in the Challenge Cup. He's played 165 minutes in the Champions in the Currie Cup. So all those other minutes coming from the Rugby Championship and stuff like that. So he's not played a lot of rugby this season, which is a bit worrying. But yeah, it's interesting to see what they're going to do with him. Whether they decide that his experience and what he brings to the table is enough to take him under Cook, because he's not played a lot of rugby. But Vic saying France day must just focus on club rugby and focus on retirement. Obviously, as much as I love France, he's played no rugby and he's not fit at all. Jean said Rob Duprier has got more Northern Hemisphere experience, particularly in Champions Cup, played against English, French, Irish, Scottish, and Welsh clubs. Chat says, if ELTON is on form, I'll back him at second 10. Peter says, I heard that Pollard is injured. Do you have any details on his current injury? I think it's a calf issue from what I hear, but a strain, nothing serious. He's walking around freely. He was there after the game, chatting to people and stuff like that. So it was more like they didn't want to risk him. Wasn't fit enough to play that game, but certainly not long term. Could very well be training with the Box in a couple of weeks' time type thing. So no issues there. As far as I understand, got through the half, played very well. Let's look at his stats actually. Interesting to see what his stats actually ended up looking like in his first season of the Premiership. Let's see, shall we? In the Premiership, he played 630 minutes, 10 games. He had an 80% kick success rate, scoring 96 points, a 77 tackle success rate. He scored 4 tries, 10 penalties, goals, 23 conversions, 15 bad passes, 62 tackles, 19 missed tackles, a tackle success rate of 77%. He beat 11 defenders, 4 try assists, 4 clean breaks. He averaged a try every 157 minutes, not bad. A carry every 18 minutes and a tackle every 10 minutes. So it looks like they are definitely at least using him defensively as they probably should be. But yeah, we do not need to panic about his availability. Unless something happens in training and stuff like that, he should be fit to start in the first Springbok game of the year. Right, we run the poll. We've got results. And guess what, right? Monty Liebach, despite your only 59 minutes of Test match rugby, people are backing you to go to the World Cup. And look, why not? If he's going to play like he is, why not at the end of the day? The question is, can he sort of adapt it to the Bok game plan and implement a Bok game plan? That's always the question. That was always the criticism that ELTON Jantjies had, that he couldn't sort of play to the Springbok style of play. But look, the way that Monty Liebach's playing at the moment, he's playing with so much confidence. For me, the fact he's a confidence player is why he could work, but also why he couldn't work. I think he's one of those players where if he gets going and he's on form and on song and playing with confidence, he's a very difficult player to keep out of the game. He's gone back-to-back man of the match performances, quarterfinals, semi-finals, so he's playing unbelievable rugby at the moment. The problem with players like that is if they do have a bad game, or they're at a bad start, for example, they can sometimes crumble a little bit. I think that's somebody that Andre Pollard's quite good at. He's mentally quite good at that sort of situation. If you look at his stats, by the way, he's played 1,400 minutes in the URC, scoring 208 points. 36 defenders beaten, 12 try assists, 11 clean breaks. His tackle success rate is 73%. So the worst technically of himself, ELTON and Pollard, but scoring far more tries, far more points, playing more minutes than the other combined. This is just in the URC, by the way. If we then look at the Champions Cup, for example, he played an additional 337 minutes. So he's played about 1,800 minutes. Tackle success rate probably averaging about 73, 74. Kick success rate in the Champions Cup was 67%. In the URC or 76%, so it is something he needs to work on. But 36 defenders beaten and 12 try assists is probably the main sort of stat that we're going to focus on. But yeah, I'll be saying Williams to start 15 with Leroux off the bench. Michelle's saying also depends on the game plan. Pollard and Liebach have very different styles. Alvin Stillingham saying realistically, Pollard, Liebach, and Duprier probably a good bet for World Cup unless Rassi thinks out of the box. And Murray saying, who do you think will take 13 if, God forbid, Lecanio gets injured? Well, the two options are to be either shift Damien Delendi to outside centre, you can play Damien Williams at inside centre, or Andre Estesen at inside centre, or alternatively, you go and pick Jesse Kriel at outside centre, which is where he plays his rugby. Be interested to see if people do back Jesse Kriel to make the squad. I'm telling you right now, he's going to the World Cup. I can tell you this for free, in terms of the actual squad that the coaching staff will pick. But be interested to see if the viewers and you guys believe he should be going. Right, there we go. That's another episode in the bag. We will be live once again on Monday. That'll be going to be picking in centers. So think about your Damon Delendis, your Andre Estesens, your Lecanio Ams, your JC Creels, your Ruanels maybe, your who else could be on the horizon? I would have liked to. I think, tell you what, I think if Henk and Baker played a full season, I think he could have been. Probably would have made the squad, but he would very much, I think, probably be in the Springbok mix. Needs to come back and have a good season next season. So hopefully he will do just that. A lot of injury issues at the moment for the youngster. But Tiamat Berg says, SA Rugby Twitter isn't ready for this conversation, but Rob de Preer is in good enough form to get a spot. Well, we have to wait and see, won't we? But yeah, people, thank you very much. We will see you guys on Monday. Well, actually, we'll see you guys tomorrow night for the Rugby Fan Forum, which will be live as usual on Thursday evening. So do come and join us for that. And apart from that, do smash like the video. Do subscribe to the channel. We are like 80 people short of 25,000 subscribers. So it's a very annoying number. Hopefully we'll get there on Saturday for all the live over the weekend and the live streams we do have. But if you are new to the channel, then just go and subscribe in the meantime. Cool. Thanks, guys. I'll see you guys next week.